problem to hold you, tongue stroke you, please you like I'm supposed to, touch spots that ain't ever been touched, and I won't stop till both these squirrels get their nuts. Hey, you know it's good when we freakin', king size squeaking after I ease in. If you was with me, baby, 24/7, best believe that every single day would be a sweet day. Girl, you sweeter than a cheesecake. If you want beef, prophecy will be a beefcake. I make love to you till you fall asleep, leave you with sweet dreams between the sheets.
Twas the night before that night. I was born on that day, but not last night. Once upon a time, I had my cash right. Plug called, he ain't act right. I'm far from a slow nigga in this fast life. He pulled up, I got low, hit the black light. Once upon a time.
What's good, everybody? It's your man Big Dom coming live at you. Another TruPlayaz podcast episode with my brother JoeyG, my brother Marz from Down and Den podcast.
What's up,
Yo, what's going on, everybody?
What's good? What's good?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You know, I promised people I'm going to have a 4th year anniversary episode this week, but we're going to push it back up to Monday. And before we're going to invite Marz to join us on the 4th year anniversary episode of the TruPlayaz podcast. So, you know, it's great to have him on the show once again. Of course, my brother Joe.
Right.
We got my brother JoeyG on the 1 and 2s. So, start off. JoeyG, introduce yourself to the people.
What's going on? This is your man JoeyG, your co-host for the TruPlayaz podcast. You know what it is? We like to talk about life. We like to talk about current events. We like to talk about just what people like as far as hobbies. We just like to talk behind the scenes about a lot of different things. We like to give our opinions and talk about them. You're not necessarily going to agree with them, and that's okay because everybody has an opinion. But at least you can walk away with your own point of view at the end of the day.
What's up, brother? What's up, brother? Always a pleasure living in the new generation, as they say, man. So I'm just living. When I saw the topics y'all had, I said, let me get on. I'm all over this. So I'm happy to be back, man. Happy anniversary. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you for that. And most definitely, the topic of the day is Vince McMahon retires from wrestling.
He's fired. I had to get that off.
Oh, yes. Thank you for getting that off. I wouldn't have done it. Couldn't have done it better myself.
Right.
But the impact of this man on the wrestling landscape over the past 40 years.
Well, the passing of the torch from his father.
Yes.
From senior to junior. Yes.
Nice. Yeah.
Starting out as a TV personality as a commentator.
Right. We didn't even know he owned
We didn't even know he was a part of that.
We just thought he was the clown announcer. We're like, where's Bobby Heenan at, man? Who's this clown?
Right. Who is this guy? Get this guy out of here. I don't want to see him.
Right.
But the impact this guy had it's going to transcend throughout time. And I must say, it's going to be a big loss for the wrestling world.
Right.
However, a change did need to be made. And with all due respect, as his impact was, he's the one that created WrestleMania.
Right.
China WrestleMania.
Right.
He created Hulkamania, which also boosted the WrestleMania content to what it was today. He turned the entire. You know, the wrestling back in the day, in the 70s, were more about territories. You had the New York territory, which was the WWF at the time. You had the Minnesota territory. Then you had the Florida territory.
Carolinas.
Memphis, the Memphis area, Tennessee area with Jerry Lawler.
Yeah.
Yes. But what this man did is he came in there and blew up the territories and became a dominant force in every single territory possible, which includes if it was for him, we wouldn't have WCW becoming the flagship for the South. Strictly.
True.
You know what I'm saying? So, who wants to start off? Who wants to put in their opinion about Mr. McMahon?
I'll go last. I'm just a big fan.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll grab the baton. You guys have probably seen me on other podcasts just talking about wrestling. I do my own podcast that is nothing about wrestling, but I just love it. You know, I'm a grown man child, and I look at it. I was watching it Monday to see what the changes would be.
Right.
So, like you said, brother, his impact, the most important figure in professional wrestling history, bar none. There would be no WrestleMania. There would be no Hulkmania. There would be no Stone Cold. There would be no The Rock, the most electrifying man. He was a visionary. He was a ruthless businessman, ruthless businessman, and made no qualms about it. A lot of people say, "Oh, the real Vince, he's compassionate." No, I think Mr. McMahon was just his other side, Anakin to Darth. I'm sure he did some good things. But I mean, I can't wait for the Vince movie in the next 5 years. I'm sure there's going to be a biopic, maybe Bradley Cooper playing him. And I can't wait to see what they're going to do, because what a story and what an ending to his chapter to go out. Of course, he's going to go out in flames. He's Vince McMahon. He's 77 years old. He should have probably retired 20 years ago. He's completely out of touch.
Right.
But that can't take anything away from what he was to the industry, which was the most visionary, daring, risk-taking. I mean, WWE was, a lot of people don't know, was at the verge of bankruptcy in the 90s when Ted Turner and was just writing blank checks, and all of a sudden you saw Hulk Hogan on WCW, and you saw Macho Man on WCW, and Roddy and Ultimate Warrior, and Hall and Nash, and every big star. He was just cutting blank checks. And Vince said, "Okay, you got my back against the wall. I'm going to fight, and not only come out victorious, but I'm going to buy my competitor that almost put me out of business. I'm going to and show up on your That's the most gangster shit I've ever seen in my entire life. Imagine you have an op, and you're like, not only am I going to take your block, but I'm going to show up on the grand closing and strut and say, I just bought the place. That's a Jew move. That is America. He is America. A lot of people don't know. Yes, he bought it from his father, but he had to get a loan, and he was raised in a trailer park, and he's adopted. Like, people don't even know this stuff about Vince McMahon. He's a infinitely interesting figure, and he was on the verge of bankruptcy a million times. He was on the verge of going to prison a million times. There was a steroid angle. That's why we started getting the Bret Harts and the Shawn Michaels and the smaller wrestlers, because back in the day, everybody was 6'9" and 350 pounds, because he was a fan of, he wasn't even a fan of wrestling. His true love was football. That's why he bought the XFL back 2 times and failed 2 times with that. But that was just a passion project of his. So,
not to cut you off, but what was it? One of his partners, Donald Trump.
Yeah, Donald Trump. Yeah, another winner. But
I'll get into that. I'll let you finish.
Yeah, he's cut from a similar cloth, but far more intelligent than Donald Trump. Donald Trump is like it's symbiotic. Not quite their inbred offspring. But
he used the Vince blueprint.
Yeah, Vince is so G that he said the N-word on national TV, and no one said a word. And then banned Hulk Hogan for saying the N-word in privacy. I'm like, bro, you said it on national TV, and we laughed at it. He had a history of just outright racism, and we watched it because we're like, that's Vince McMahon. There's some people that when the devil does something bad, it's not surprising. And that's why I tell people it's always better to be your true, authentic self. Because if you're just a scumbag, revel in that scumbagness. And when you do scumbag shit, no one's surprised. They're like, of course he was having affairs with women. He did it on TV as a character.
Right.
It's like when people were surprised about R. Kelly. I'm like, did you hear the song? He said, show me some ID before we get freaky. Why do you need ID if you're questioning this person? They're telling you what's going on. And Vince told you what's going on. And I seriously think that this was a power play. Because obviously some of this stuff is 20 years old or older. Someone said, hey, we got to get this old man out before he puts the ship down. because he doesn't. They said Vince was forgetting that people had wrestled just the week before. Forgetting he's 77 years old and has literally been hitting the head with chairs.
Mhm.
He needs to go home, and so
Right.
he's still got 85% of the stock. He's still a billionaire. He'll be all right.
Yeah, most definitely he'd be all right. But he gave us a lot of great stories to revel on. We could go back to a lot of different stories. I said something about Trump and him combining forces for a little while, and this was after the WCW thing you said about the purchase, if I'm correct.
Yeah, well,
Um, I
yeah,
felt like during that time he was grooming him. Like Vince McMahon was grooming Donald Trump. Trump had the masses as far as his show was concerned. I forgot what it was called.
The
What
Apprentice.
The Apprentice. As far as The Apprentice is concerned, he had people's attention, but Vince showed him that other side. He showed him you could say anything you want. He showed Donald Trump you could say anything you want, but you have to stick to your character. I
Right.
watched the interview. You were talking about steroids. I watched the interview that he did right after Benoit and his situation as far as the homicide and the committing of suicide and everything like that. His face said one thing, but his words said a totally different thing. Like his eyes looked into the interviewer was like, "I'll kill you." Like his eyes were piercing.
Oh yeah.
That, and I was just like, "Wow!" And he stuck to the script and was like, no, we don't condone that. Blah, 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 blah. Like he did this. Basically, he won off him, and like, let's move on from that question. But his eyes, I'll never forget it. It was just like, I'll kill you where you stand.
Yeah. Vince is from that day. There's rumors. I don't know if you guys know the tale about Jimmy Snuka, the late great Jimmy Fly Super Snuka. But
Loved the dude.
Dark Side Wrestling. Apparently, he may or may not have, allegedly, to protect you guys for liability, killed his girlfriend in a small town. The guys are roided out. They're partying.
Right.
Things get out of hand. Back in the 70s, it was sometimes acceptable to discipline your woman. That's what they did back then.
Mm-hmm.
He slapped her reportedly, which they said he was known to do. She falls, hits her head, she dies. Vince apparently, at the time, Jimmy Snuka was the biggest superstar in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Vince apparently bribes the hillbilly cops and gets ruled an accident on to wrestle in the next town. This happened like 30, 40 years ago, and he ended up going in trial for it when he was 70-something years old, but was ultimately found, and there was a ton of evidence that this really happened, but because he was old and had Alzheimer's, he was found not competent to go to court, and they just kind of erased his legacy. That's the type of person that Vince is. He's cutthroat, old school. It is a movie, and I think when I understand HBO is doing a little expose, it's just going to get juicier. We're going to find, when King Kong's down, that's when the vultures come. Right. So you had this big mass media, but he was so powerful because he was bringing in billions of dollars of revenue to these networks. He was untouchable. But now we're going to see all the people come out the woodwork, all the stories. And like I said, I just want to see that movie.
I feel like you've touched on something that is very true. I've seen it in numerous cases. We could call them out. When it comes to Vince McMahon, he did a graceful thing. Like he knows it's that time. This last thing, it was very damaging, not just to him personally, but to his legacy. So before my legacy gets tarnished, I'm gonna bow out gracefully right now. Like regardless if they can prove it or not prove it, I'm going to bow out now because my legacy is going to be squeaky clean. I can move on. And if I fall, I'll fall outside of the realm that I created, which is a very smart move, regardless of his personal life and all the things that he's done outside of wrestling or maybe during the tenure of wrestling. But smart move. Smart move.
Hey, and they had a 9%. I have WWE stock, and they had a 9% jump just from the announcement of Triple H. So if I saw a little impact on my bottom line, Vince just made a buck by being able to bounce out gracefully, as they say.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, as great as a businessman he was, as great as a booker he was in WWE, there was a lot of missed opportunities for even more money had he booked the right matches. Had he just put his foot down and stood up to Hulk Hogan and say, "Yo, listen, you're gonna pass the ball to Bret Hart. I don't care. I'm the boss. You do it."
Right. Bret Hart was that. Bret Hart would have been that breadwinner for a long time.
Yeah.
For a long time. Just his charisma alone.
Mm-hmm.
His match, I remember his best match that I loved watching was Mr. Perfect. Him and Mr. Perfect go at it. There was like two tacticians in the ring. You were just like, yo, they're evenly keeled. Like one's a master technician. The other one is just like trying to get the perfect angle, the perfect this, the perfect that. And it just worked. It's almost like that good and evil thing that you seen right there in front of you. They're pretty much the same person. Just because one had blonde hair and the other had black hair. This is working.
Ken and Ryu. They were Ken and Ryu. And, you know,
perfect analogy.
Yeah, but no, and rest in peace to Kurt Hennig and Mr. Perfect. That dude was the swaggiest white guy on the planet.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Facts. You know how many times I've hit people in the face with gum trying to do that spit. Literally a G. So yeah, shout out to the late great Kurt Hennig. But you're absolutely right. Vince liked what Vince liked. He liked bodybuilder guys, people that could talk. So he left a lot of money on the table and made a lot of faux pas because he couldn't get over his own vision of what he thought was perfection. And how do you blame him? At the end of the day, he was the last man standing. And that's what happens. Literally a situation when you lose that hunger and you've defeated. That's why I tell people, keep your haters. They're motivators. But when you slayed all the beasts and you're a conqueror and you have nothing left to conquer, you get fat on your own ambition and you get greedy. And that's why the majority of these charges came after he was too busy trying to fight for his life to chase Poon around. When he was fighting WCW, these charges came after because he's just fat. It's nothing to conquer, and he was a fighter. He's like a lion that you put in the zoo and give him steaks, and now he's just fat because he's been eating steakums all day and doesn't want to hunt anymore. So he decides to hunt his employees and just here's $2 million, go away. Here's $3 million, go away. You know, and most of these, except for the one charge with the older story with the alleged referee, these were consensual. You know, these women knew he was married. We know it's a sham marriage. These people knew he was his boss. You know, I think his biggest problem is that his company is publicly traded, because if he wasn't publicly traded anymore, what could they say? What could they say? And once again, a victim of his own ambition is the growth. Now you have shareholders to answer to, and you have a board to answer to. But before you went publicly traded, you answered to no one but yourself.
Right. Wow.
It's you know, I thought he was gonna fight this too, but I guess
no,
he was too tired. He was too weary. He was like, you know what? Let me bow gracefully. Let me pass on the baton to his daughter Stephanie, his son-in-law Triple H. And remember, CM Punk.
Yes.
Yeah, he did. He did. Doofus son-in-law, and then, you know, the pipe bomb is infamous. But you know, the thing about it, Vince still has a power play. As I mentioned, he has. If anybody knows how the stock market works, you have Class A stock, Class B stock. He owns 85% of the Class A stock. In other words, he's still the owner of the company. Doesn't matter if he doesn't have creative power. He still has the majority of stock. He has a power play, because ultimately, if he sells his stock to a conglomerate such as a Disney or whatever like that, he could do that and then say, you know what, you guys betrayed me. None of y'all. I'm gonna get these couple billy, and I'll let Disney hold this. He still has a power play. So, you know,
that would be a crazy merger.
And
Yeah,
I'm just
yeah.
throwing that out there because I was just thinking whose bag is big enough to buy the WWE, and Disney is
Listen,
the only thing that came to mind.
listen.
But
Disney is gobbling up stuff like Pac-Man right
content
now.
is king. Content is king right now, and if you don't have original IPs, you need that. I can see Netflix buying it. They just buy everything right now. I'm trying to get
Right.
a Netflix deal as we speak. So yeah, who knows?
But he, let's talk about the missed opportunities.
A
Me
lot.
personally, first of all, my favorite match, my best favorite match was WrestleMania 3, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat versus Macho Man Randy Savage.
Yes, good match.
Classic.
They stole WrestleMania 3 from
Mhm.
Andre and Hogan. They stole that shit.
Yeah.
But my second best match that I've seen put together, JoeyG and Marz, you mentioned it, Mr. Perfect Bret Hart. Was it SummerSlam? It's got IC Championship.
88, right?
I want to say SummerSlam. It was like a SummerSlam because that's when they had the wrestling magazine.
Yeah, I think it was SummerSlam '88, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. And that was a beautiful match. No. The thing is, too, Vince knew how to put the right dance partners together.
Right, and the build-up was always great.
Yes.
The build-up was always great to the point when the show came down, you would even want to watch it one more time. What was the build-up again? Let's watch it again so we could get hyped right before the show and then watch the show and just be like, "Oh, that was great."
Yeah. You know what it was, too? The people tell that his genius was he had planned to build up a year before it happened.
Right.
Well, they had long-term booking back then. They didn't have 3 hours. It came out on. It wasn't a Raw back then. It came on a Saturday Night Main Event, and so you had to plan it out because you had an hour of TV a week.
Right.
But once again, too much ambition, greed. Let's get a 3-hour time slot. How do we fill it? Let Roman Reigns walk down for 5 minutes. That it's the longest entrance I've ever seen. He's on like, damn, the Undertaker's 70. He could walk down faster than man. What the hell? So it's just too much. It's too much greed. And I always preach people, Gordon Gekko said greed is good. Now, greed is the death of humanity. It's when you get too greedy.
Absolutely. The thing is, too, he was greedy, yes. But what he lost was what kind of turned me off to WWE is when we had the black champions there.
Okay.
Kofi Kingston.
Okay.
Bianca Belair. Defend their championship. They lose it in seconds, not in minutes, in seconds.
Yeah.
After the big build-up, and that for me, that's what turned me off about wrestling. It turned me off about WWE. I only watch WWE because AEW is, for me, it's too dangerous. There's a lot of reckless things go on in that promotion. Very unsafe stuff in that promotion, and I don't watch it. I just wish a lot of the WWE guys come back to WWE. But when you have competition, it steps your game up. So that's the best way to look at it. You know what I'm saying? Because maybe WWE needed AEW to rise up. Now instead of going leaving the PG era, so now they're going back to possibly back to the Attitude Era.
Right.
So we all know what happened during the Attitude Era. That's what dug that cough from WCW.
Right.
But they had the machine of the NWO.
Yeah. I think the Attitude Era that's the area I grew up on. I mean, of course I remember the Hogans and stuff, but I really, really grew up in the 90s with your NWO, your DX, the Monday Night Wars, your Rock, your Stone Cold, the Attitude Era. Loved it. There was a lot of crap during the Attitude Era too. That gives a lot of pass because just like anything, when a generation goes back, your music sounds better, the food was better, everything was better. When you realize, no, it was just better because I was 14. I didn't have to work, and all I had to do was eat Pop-Tarts and watch wrestling. That's why it was so great. But also, we see, if as you mentioned, AEW, they're essentially Attitude Era. They curse on AEW. Someone bleeds at least 16 times a show. People are jumping off shit and I watch AEW, but I agree with you. There's several times at my age, and I'm 40, I turned away. I saw a little bit before we came on. I was looking at a little bit, and I saw a guy like lick somebody's blood, and I almost fainted. I was like, "Oh, that's hepatitis." That's hepatitis. Why would you do that? And I was like, damn, I've become that dad now that I'm like, oh God, why would you do that? Is there no sanctity in your soul? What's going on? I'm like, I'm agnostic as hell, but right there I found religion. And I was like, oh, what are you doing, Jesus? What are you doing? WWE, by going TV 14, will certainly help to give you a little bit more edge. So when you're really mad at someone, you should be able to say bitch or ass, or I'm going to kick your ass instead of saying I'm going to kick your butt, because it takes the realism. Because I've never been ready to fight. I'm like, you know what, buddy? I'm going to kick your butt. So TV 14 will help, but what will really help is someone that's 50 that's really in love with pro wrestling versus someone that's 77 that's really in love with making money. And I think Triple H being the head of creative and Stephanie being the CEO running the business is a perfect marriage. Because if you guys remember NXT, the Black and Gold era, that was phenomenal. That was a resurgence of really good storytelling, great wrestlers. Everybody was a cookie cutter. Everyone was a 6'5" and all greasy and built up. You know, you had people like Johnny Wrestling, Tommaso Ciampa. You had Aleister Black, who's now Malachi Black over there. Pop. I mean, those NXT Gold, Kevin Owens, Cesaro, Sami Zayn, those are some of the best matches of the last, and literally almost the father of what we see at AEW, which is the hot new thing.
Right.
I feel with Triple H in charge, I think after SummerSlam, we're going to see immediate impact on the product with him being able to start for SummerSlam is a perfect halfway point where we can build up to WrestleMania, and I think nobody is better to lead. And hopefully we'll get to see some of those people that they fired, some of those free agents come back, because maybe Sasha Banks can mend her ways. She's really close to Triple H. Maybe we can see the Fiend, someone that can actually talk, that was actually a wrestler and did it and has a vision and respects people's creativity. Maybe people can get their names back. Maybe we can call them Austin Theory instead of just Theory. I hate when they just take someone's name away for no reason. Or someone like Walter, who they just name him Gunther for no reason. Like we've seen it. You know, it's like me just coming on. I'm like, yeah, my name is Jim. And I'm like, no, we know you're Mars. We sing him like, no. I'm Jim now. It doesn't work like that. So I look forward to what Triple H is going to do.
He got a lot of people under him too. Like right now, I feel like he had a lot of people under him, but you had Vince with the final say, and it cut a lot of the stuff out. I think me and Dom touched on this in a different conversation when we were talking about wrestling. But storyline wise, you have a lot of veterans that are there, a lot of veterans that could put their input. Having Stephanie McMahon and Triple H as the heads of the table, that's perfect. They both wrestled.
Right.
They both wrestled, so they know what works and what drives the crowd to a certain degree. If not, they remember how a certain situation worked or how it would play out with the different people. They had Cactus Jack, you know what I'm saying, who would just come up with stuff on the whim. Like, you have a lot of innovators that were in the business, is basically what I'm getting at. And they had time to sit there and watch all these things happen. Yes, they're watching their father work, but they're also watching the creativity of the wrestlers they were raised with, in the business with. Now we have an opportunity to work with them yet again and put them in the forefront where we could create great shows. Yes, we're going to make the money. That comes. But let's focus on the great show. Let's focus on that, because that's where it needs to be. If we're just going to focus on the money, close it down. When Vince leaves, close it down. We'll work on something else, if that's where we're going to go with it. But now that Vince is leaving, he's retiring and everything like that, let's get back to the creativity part of wrestling to draw people back in so more generations can witness what we did growing up and have the same passion. Yeah. It was a soap opera that's lasting. How do we have All My Children, General Hospital, and whatever the fuck show was the other one? What was the other one, Tom? Days of Our Lives. My bad.
I watch that shit, goddammit. I watch Days of Our Lives.
I only know all my children. I used to watch with my brother. So shout out to all my children. Shout out to Erica King.
Right.
Shout out to Erica King.
Oh man! But now with Triple H, and we're gonna segue to the new people in charge. What I would like to change to happen for me watching it, if I was some time to watch WWE, is can we bring back Seth freaking Rollins as a main event wrestler instead of having him job to all these people? Can we have that?
It's coming. And you know, Seth is Triple H's guy, and I think ultimately, I think Cody will be the one to dethrone Roman, but I think he immediately loses to Seth. To Seth get vengeance for all these losses. I think it's set up now with Triple H in charge with things. Seth Rollins right now is probably the most over guy on the roster, and he never wins. That's he lost 3 times clean to a guy coming from AEW who before was literally Stardust. That's something that Vince, the old Vince, would have never done, because Vince would get those people from WCW and job them out immediately. Like, oh, DDP, you was a world champion. Well, now you're stalking Undertaker's wife and you got fake teeth. Go. You know, but you know, you was a 5-time world champion. You're gonna go with Gold Dust, and now he stutters. Go. Oh, Sting, you were this icon. Look how Sting is being used. I don't like that he wrestles this much at 63, but look how he's being respected in AEW. They brought him over to WWE, and instead of saying, hey, dream match with The Undertaker, we're going to have you lose to Triple H and break your neck losing to Seth Rollins and retire. What a waste. Another missed opportunity, as you mentioned. So I don't think Triple H will let that happen.
You know what it is, too. If I was writing that whole situation with Sting, and I would have, if he was going to lose to Triple H, he would have had no choice but to put the belt on him from Seth Rollins, have Seth Rollins beat him back for the belt. That's the only way he would lose to Triple H at WrestleMania. You got to put the belt on him right after.
Yeah,
and a lot of wrestlers did not agree with that booking with him losing to Triple H in WrestleMania.
No, a lot of wrestlers didn't need that win. He did at that point. And at the end of the day, you're the bad guy. The whole point of being the bad guy is with any good storytelling is to take the fall at the end. Mm-hmm. Triple H was the only one to be like, yeah, I know I'm the bad guy. I know technically WrestleMania is supposed to be the end of the story, but I'm going to go ahead and win because I'm banging the boss's daughter. Now I am the boss. But yeah, like we talked about missed opportunities under Vince. WrestleMania 17, Booker T versus Triple H. Booker T was arguably the most popular wrestler in the industry at that time.
Right.
They had a whole horrible, horrendous, racist angle where Triple H was calling them nappy head and people like you and people like that, and only to lose at WrestleMania. What moral of the story? I'm cool with you playing this character that's slightly snobbish and has slightly racial innuendo, because I know that's not who you are and I can separate the character from the person. But why do you come out triumphant? That's poor storytelling. The story is, yes, this man went to prison. Yes, this man changed his life. And yes, he triumphed at the biggest stage of them all over the racist, snobbish champion that thought he was too good. That's the story you tell. But Vince would do that all the time because he would let politics get in the way of what he always said was best for business. But we know they played a lot of backstage politics.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. But let me tell you something. I'm going to say one of the favorite lines that Vince McMahon always said. He didn't always provide what people wanted in the interest of fairness.
True. Right.
One of my favorite lines.
Yeah.
In the interest of
fairness.
I'm more Stone Cold DTA. Don't trust anybody.
And how about the Kiss My Ass Club? Steven Regal kissing the first one, kissing his butt with he was wearing a thong. Yeah. God damn it!
You guys are shocked about some of these things. I mean, like I said, I love pro wrestling, but low key, some of the pro wrestling stuff is real suspect. Ain't nobody got body hair. They got draws. I'm like, why are you fighting in draws? I've been in a fight or two in my life, but I ain't never said, you know what, brother, hold on. You probably win more fight if you just took your pants out. Because people are like, you know what, man, I'm good. I don't want no beef. But it doesn't make sense. So, I'm sure the stories that are going to come out. This man is from the 70s, 80s, cocaine cowboys. I've seen some interviews that I know Macho Man had done 3 rails before the infamous cream of the crop promo. I mean,
a cup of coffee. Wow.
The queen rises to the top. I'm like, what is wrong with you?
Yo, the one who took the cake for me was the Warrior. Nobody could top him. When it came to promos and talking like, what the fuck did he just say? Was the Ultimate Warrior.
8-year-old Sean, aka Marz, you couldn't tell me nothing about the Ultimate Warrior. I thought the Ultimate Warrior spoke better than Martin Luther King. I thought he was Theodore Roosevelt. I thought this man. And once I became an adult and I replaced it, I was like, what the fuck was he on?
No.
Even while he was talking to the back of the camera, he would turn his back and be like, my warriors.
What's his name? What was the announcer's name? Mean Gene. Mean Gene Okerlund. There was sometimes he would just be looking at him like, what the fuck?
And Mean Gene was low-key shady as hell. He was,
you had to he had snarky comments for everybody in every situation. Nobody beat up on him, nobody.
Nah, because he'd bring up real life. I remember one time was like, you gonna disrespect me, Mean Gene? He'd be like, was you disrespecting that side chick you had? He'd be like, oh, okay. You let me lock this stuff. Locker room stuff.
Right.
Wow.
Yo, I seen his documentary was great. Mean Gene's documentary was great. I loved it.
Yeah.
But I love the WWE Network for the short time it was on now. All the WWE content is on Peacock. So anybody who has Peacock, subscribe to Peacock for all the WWE content. They're not paying me for the commercial, but I'll just do it anyway. Maybe they'll give me an opportunity to sponsor me on TruPlayaz podcast. But anyways,
podcast and get 10%. No, you won't.
I
can say that, but it's not true.
Yeah, but check out the website.
Exactly. But you know what, guys? Which now this death of this particular wrestler now really hurts me because I felt he had one of the greatest minds for the business as far as storytelling and character promotion. I heard him do shoot interviews. Scott Hall. I would have loved for him to be a writer. If he was still alive, put him in that position to write.
Right.
Yeah. A lot of people, Scott Hall, as you mentioned, aka Razor Ramon, if you're a 90s baby, and know him just from WWF, recently passed away, I think earlier this year. But icon in mind as a business. The Rock, if you notice The Rock, he modeled his whole persona is just Razor Ramon. This punches everything. He created Sting Crow when Sting became the Crow. That was his idea. Razor's Edge, probably still to this day, my favorite finisher. You don't know how many little cousins has caught a Razor's Edge on the head growing up.
Right. Hard to do.
Yeah, it has to be a little cousin because once they get 125 pounds and up, you're not just flipping somebody over your head like that, But Scott Hall, and it's a shame because obviously one thing about Triple H, not only does he have his own great mind for the business, but he also put the right people in the right places. Right. William Regal, who you see killing it now on AEW, he put William Regal really in charge of NXT because he had a great mind for scouting. Shawn Michaels, my all-time favorite wrestler.
Right.
He's got him down there in NXT right now. Of course, Scott Hall would have been, if he was sober and healthy and ready to go, would have been fantastic on the writing. He knows the right people to put in the right places to get the job done. And he just knows how to make sense with a story. Like, hopefully we'll stop seeing matches just in DQ for no reason. And the same match over and over and over and over again.
Right.
I sound like Marshawn Lynch, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
over. But over. But hopefully, and I do believe that we'll start seeing that change, because Stephanie, she's great at the business part, great face for it. She keeps that McMahon name, the co-CEO, which I don't know how that's going to work. I've never heard of a co-CEO before. But Nick Khan, he's also good with the financial, and then having Triple H not only in charge of NXT but all of creative. That's the job he wanted, because Triple H didn't want to be selling ads to NBC. He wanted to be putting his footprint on the product, and I think he's perfect for that.
Right. I agree with that.
And give Triple H credit though. He was the reason why the women's division revolution with Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch, Sasha Banks, Bayley. That movie.
Yeah.
That segue from the Diva era to the women's revolution. You gotta give Triple H much credit for that.
They did a whole turning point with the women wrestlers. It started just as eyepieces. They really started as eyepieces, and it wasn't really focused on the wrestling part of the aspect. Then it went from that to like, oh, they're just models that happen to wrestle every once in a while. Now we're gonna do outlandish matches to have people drawn in to watch for that specific match, to taking serious wrestlers. Like, okay, now we have a women's champion. Now the matches are getting more intricate. Now they're starting to look like real good matches to watch, to the point where they're taking over the regular primetime TV.
Yeah. Headlining WrestleManias and pay-per-views and Sasha Banks is arguably the best wrestler on the roster, period, male or female, or formerly on the roster. We don't know what's going on there. Sasha Banks was like modern day Eddie Guerrero, who, as far as in the ring, Eddie Guerrero is my favorite just in the ring. Shawn Michaels is my favorite overall. But Eddie Guerrero just in the ring, if you watch some old Eddie Guerrero matches, that dude was 20 years.
It wasn't just the in-ring presence. It was the ability to create a storyline or a narrative on point. Like, he's like, all right, I'm going to do this because it's going to create this reaction. I'm going to get the referee involved, and he would create it on the spot to have people like, they're rooting for him, but hating him at the same time. It's like, I love this guy. I want to see what he's going to do next. I don't want him to win though.
My favorite Eddie Guerrero line, he had a whole storyline where he was with Chyna for the Intercontinental belt. And then after he gets the belt, she catches him in the shower with two chicks. And she's like, Eddie, how could you? We were supposed to get married. And my man looks right at the camera and goes, 2 mamacitas is better than 1 mamacita. And she goes off crying. I'm like, that's the coldest shit I ever seen in my life. What in the world? You know, it doesn't work in real life, gentlemen. Don't do that. But for entertainment purposes,
me too. Gotta be priests. Gotta be priests. Look, my bad.
No, not priest. Not priest.
Oh yeah.
No, we can't do that either.
I'd rather be Eddie than the priest.
I'd rather be Malcolm in the middle.
Let me tell you something. As I would love to continue to talk with WWE stuff, but we're gonna segue to a new subject. Before we do, from Vincent Kennedy McMahon, from Big Don, JoeyG and Marz, from the TruPlayaz podcast from Don the Den Studios and Productions. We want to tell you, Mr. Vince McMahon, despite your faults, despite your transgressions or whatever you did wrong, we want to tell you thank you. Because when we were young kids, we had to tune into a channel 11, a channel 5, or channel 4 on Saturdays, once a month, to watch Saturday Night Live because of the product that you brought to the television sets.
Right.
I want to thank you for XFL too, which gave NFL players who did not make it to the NFL an opportunity to continue their professional career in the XFL. So he did a lot for people. And one thing about Vince McMahon, everybody says he's an asshole, he's a dick, this, that, and the other. This was a man who gave people chances, who screwed him over and gave him second and third chances. So let's not forget about that as we segue to the next part of the show, which is the upcoming debut of House of Dragons. We're going to start with that. House of Dragons. Game of Thrones. I don't want to spoil it too much because I promised Marz we're going to do an episode on season 8 on the possible rewrite. We're going to do an episode before the debut of House of Dragons, or what if episode on Game of Thrones season 8.
I'm there, man.
What's up?
I'm there. I'm there. Yeah, I've been thinking about Game of Thrones since they broke my heart with that all dark episode. I'm still trying to figure out what the hell happened. I almost called Sony and sued them for my TV. Realized I'm like, somebody G'd somebody on the budget. They spent like $30 million for a show and lit it with a flashlight. The whole damn show. So yeah, I'm there.
It's like, what happened to the TV? Why isn't the TV working? Nah, the sound's good. Everything's connected. Let me unplug the HDMI cord, plug it back in, see what happens. Nah, the sound. I can still hear them. I can't see shit on the screen. Turn the brightness up. Turn the brightness up. Still dark as hell. What the hell is going on?
Still dark as hell, and Jon Snow was sent back to the wall. How about that?
They're like, did I pay my bill? I'm like, is this the new thing? You late? They just gonna let you hear the show. You can't see it, and they're like.
But I thought about it later. I didn't realize it until later. It was more of a psychological feel to it. It was cool, but they could have warned us about that shit. They should have put us in that position because we didn't know what was going on. If I was watching it in the movie theaters, that would have made total sense to me. But I'm watching it at home. I'm watching it at home on my TV. I'm expecting the worst right now. I don't know what's going on. Did the cable go out? What is going on?
And the thing is too about that season 8 situation. I don't want to do too much of the episode, too much of that season. I felt, in my humble opinion, that Game of Thrones series should have went 10 seasons, just for the sake of the correctness of a writing. Because season 8 felt like season 9 and season 10 was just thrown together real fast. We skipped some parts. Cersei being the queen and Daenerys going to battle her for Westeros should have been an entire season of that.
It should have been a back and forth, a retaliation, and just to show their different strategies back and forth.
Yeah. You say the White Walkers as an in battle. They're not the pre-battle.
No, the pre-battle should have happened. Yeah, I agree with you.
Have a whole season of Cersei, who I was looking forward to seeing how devious she really was. Because Game of Thrones before then, you never knew who was going to win. And it on paper, Daenerys had so much going for it. It seemed like, oh, she's going to wipe the floor. And I was looking forward. I was seeing she was making her little side pirates and stuff. She was going to really pull some shit. A Lannister always pays his debts. Right. And 2 episodes. And the war was 3 seconds. She was just sitting there like, damn, I really probably should have gave up. That was all she did. I'm like, the biggest villain of the show. And she ended the series like, damn, I talked all that shit. Well, we'll just go crash around on me with my boyfriend, brother. No, it was weird. It was.
She ended it like Jack Nicholson in Batman 1. Why didn't you tell me he had all these wonderful toys?
Her name is the Queen of Dragons. That was like, what you think she was rolling up with?
Yo, she really has dragons, son.
Oh, they're real. Oh, I thought you meant she had like a dragon outfit or live fire-breathing dragon. What do we have? Arrows. Oh shit. Okay.
They had something for the dragons though.
Fire. Remember
the dragon fire. They had the dragon fire to take them out.
remember they had the ships. The ship took out one,
right?
Which I don't know how that ship did a 360 that quick, but
right. We're just gonna bypass that.
No laws of physics. That last season, time travel didn't matter. I remember the first season, it was like 3 episodes for the king to make it from land. They're like, the king is coming. Cool. The king's coming. How long he's been traveling? 6 months. But he'll be here. And now they were like, yo, we from Westeros to this place in 1 episode.
Right.
Rush job to the umpteenth level. I felt that it was an opportunity also, if they did it right, did the 10 seasons like I mentioned. Like I said, I wouldn't give too much. What if the announcement of Jon Snow, the legitimate child of Rhaegar Targaryen and Lyanna Stark, to the entire realm.
Right.
Right.
But would Bran allow that though?
Well, Bran is Bran is essentially King the Conqueror.
Right.
Bran's a little shady. He knew all this shit was going to happen. He just sitting there.
Right. Looking like he has seizures most of the time.
Yeah, John, don't worry about that nice blonde girl. She's not your aunt at all. Go ahead, hook up. I'm like, what, Bran?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Could have said something about that though, bro.
Say hi to my say hi to my auntie.
Right.
Nothing.
What? He's like, my new bride, and he hit him with the Killmonger. Hey, auntie. And they're like, what? No. You'll see.
Well, I would have loved to have seen, and they missed the whole thing with Gendry Baratheon.
Gendry, okay.
In my humble opinion, he is a legitimate child of Robert Baratheon and Cersei Lannister.
Right.
More than Joffrey, who wasn't his child at all.
Exactly.
And I'm glad he got killed. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah. Joffrey was
fucking annoying.
that kid who acted him, I think he was in say depression after that role he did. He was so mean and shit.
No, because he probably got a lot of flack from the fans though. He played that role to a T, and we were hating him. I know I was.
Yeah, no. Joffrey, if I was talking in the elevator, I might have been like, what for?
I wanted to smack the crap out of that boy.
Yo, he got poisoned. I was like, yo, he's about to die. But who did it though?
But another thing too, that has been explained in that whole series, the Stannis Baratheon really died.
That's a good question. Because they didn't really show it.
Yeah, it's off screen, so
they didn't really show it. Yeah. They showed him going off. They never showed what happened to him afterwards. Oh, which is another Bruce Wayne Batman situation. But anyway,
it's autopilot. But this is the beauty of Game of Thrones is it created 2 spinoffs. It built the House of Dragon prequel, and Jon Snow is returning for his spinoff, which I think they called it Snow. I felt they should have called it Dragon Wolf.
Dragon Wolf. Okay. Dragon Wolf. What they were going to call it something else before that, though.
I would have loved to, because he's pretty much the new king of the wildlings.
Wildlings, yeah.
They could have called it something like the wildlings or something,
Right. But I thought they were going in something like that direction, king of the wildlings or something like that. He doesn't necessarily have to stay there. He doesn't have to because that kingdom beyond the wall. He can run that whole thing. He didn't have to stay there. He could appoint somebody to watch that while he goes and travels.
But remember, he was sent to the wall. He couldn't leave the wall.
His uncle was a part of the wall, and he was traveling that whole thing. Became undead and went further.
Again, he's an unwritten history.
Right.
What happened to him after he got tackled? After he freed Jon.
But he didn't die himself. he looked undead.
I was like, I don't think he could die. I think he
Right.
was because that in the book, that's what happened to their mom. Caitlin
Yes.
Stark became Lady Stoneheart, which I was holding out hope to the final season. I was like, I don't think they're gonna bring up this storyline at this point. But you know, there was a lot of them that were in that middle half dead, kind of like Jon Snow, because he died and came back and was resurrected. So.
And I believe in the book that didn't Varys steal one of Rhaegar and Elia Martell's kids, one of the son, and took him away before the mountain came and killed the kid, the daughter, or something like that.
Yeah, I think they had. Yeah. There was a hidden character, and I think she was pretending to be like just a regular maid, but she was really because when they left, I don't think he's ever finished in the book. That man and cashed some checks and moved on, but he was like, "Yeah, y'all thought it was gonna get an ending, you thought." But there was about they had left it a storyline where there was like 4 or 5 characters that could potentially end up with the Iron Throne still, and you know who knows if he's gonna finish it.
Right. I mean, he just has to have producers that back him and the storyline, because I feel like there was a time crunch with putting the shows out, and there was also just a creative battle between the producers and what was written already.
I think the biggest thing is when they ran out of roadmap because they passed and superseded a book. You take on a series based off a book or a series that's not finished. It's probably not the wisest idea, especially when they were so literally doing the adaptation. There were very few changes in those first few seasons, and then they ran out of book. And then instantly you could see the quality drop because these guys aren't the creator. Even though they really understood how to adapt, adapting and creating are 2 totally different things.
Right.
So, you know, he kind of gave them some guidelines, but if they were really the guidelines, wouldn't the book be finished? Or did they put him on point and say, so how's it going to end? And he pulls some stuff out his ass like, oh, how's it going to end? Good question. Daenerys is John's aunt. What? Yeah.
You didn't know that?
He smashed him too. Yeah.
Guys,
what we did.
What happened? What happened to Jake and Hagar / Rhaegar Targaryen?
Like, hey, he went crazy.
Now, not for nothing, the man of many faces.
Yeah.
Whew. That's a series in itself.
That whole community, and there's so many worlds that they introduce that are infinitely entertaining that they could do in additional spinoffs if these 2 are successful.
Yes, definitely. We have to see at least the first season of each and hope they're that good.
Yeah, I'm holding off hope because I season 8 left a taste in my mouth that almost ruined the whole show for me. You know, it's something so bad. Like, damn, it was so good. It was like a divorce. Everything was all good just a week ago, but now it's all bad.
Right. I mean, that the way they ended it was they dropped the ball. Like, after being invested for 8 seasons, to end it the way they did was just like, come on.
8 seasons in 10 years, because you remember towards the end, each season took like 2 years to make.
Right.
So they're waiting for this and waiting for that. And, you know, it's like you knew you was getting this bike for Christmas and you unwrapped it with socks. Them long socks with the stripes that nobody want to wear. You look like Dr. J and people choking you at the basketball. Sorry, I had a flashback. But at the end of the day, the ending was hot garbage.
Right. It's like waiting for Mortal Kombat 2, finally seeing it, and was like,
See,
I could have waited. I could have waited to VHS or PBS.
Man, all this song gave me hype for this What If episode, man. I'm telling you, I can't wait to get it out there, man.
Yeah, you know? I can't wait to do it.
Oh man,
a lot of different point of views.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
And we didn't talk about Aura.
Arya, yeah.
I don't
Her-
think we're gonna see her cameo. I think I mean, she ain't doing nothing, so I'm certain.
No, I'm sorry,
I'm
she's gonna be a
saying,
cameo in Jon Snow's thing. She's gonna be a
I'm just saying,
cameo.
there should be another series with that also.
Yeah, her just adventuring out there because
Yeah.
she's kind of like on the open seas, exploring worlds that had never been seen. So
Right. She could um she could possibly open up that whole world into a new world.
right, because we
Which
forget that the world hasn't been explored fully. This is
right.
still like ancient times where they only
Right.
know Westeros and they pretty much know Idaho.
Right.
They keep, but you know what I like about House of Dragon? The black people being more used in that one in high levels. The Valerians is all black people.
Mhm.
They're from Volantis, according to the whole story.
Right.
I believe that because most of the people who are from them are not Volantis or Valyria. Apparently, all people from old Valyria can all ride dragons.
Mm.
So that's an interesting dynamic. I can't wait to see in that series if they explore it the way I would like it to be explored properly. You know, I come from the writers. You know, I know Mars know that Joey G knows. I was writing a spinoff of Yu-Gi-Oh, made it live action.
Right.
I was working on writing on that shit, and I don't know why I stopped doing it, but I got to make some time to go back and doing it because if Joey G would tell you, I done wrote like 4 seasons already of live action. Right. 4 seasons.
And that trust me, the storyline's good. It's good. It intertwines spirituality with regular life and it just modern day stuff. Modern day life mixed with that, the spirituality that from back in the day. Just now. It would be hot, especially with all the special effects and stuff that we got. It would be hot.
Hey, Netflix is buying. You better get in before they run out of money because they are buying. I've seen some show. I've looked at a show on Netflix called "Is It Cake?" And you know what it's about?
What?
People asking this shit cake. Somebody sold that, but more importantly, somebody bought that. Somebody went to a studio and said, "Yo, we're gonna make a cake that look like a toilet, and we're gonna put 3 toilets, and somebody gonna guess which one is cake." And somebody say, "God damn it, here's $20 million." So I tell you, it's the writing game is where it's at. The IP, because they don't have original. You know, Netflix was hot when you could go watch your Marvel movies there, watch your Disney. Everybody has their own streaming service, so now they have to spend all this money just creating content. And there's apparently the quality control guys just like, fuck it, how much? Here you go. They got some hot trash on it.
I love how we segue right to Marvel. But before I get to that, I must say this before we get to Marvel. I need to speak to the executive of Shonen Jump because I'm using some of their content in my story. What I love to collaborate with them with my story, so we get that. So if we get Netflix come calling me, I've got 4 seasons of my Yu-Gi-Oh special for you guys, and a multiverse version too.
Licensing deal. Let's go.
Let's get it. But now we have to shift over to Marvel. A movie's coming out, I believe, later this year, or maybe in August, or even later than that. Black Panther 2, Wakanda Forever.
Okay.
November 11th, 2022.
Okay, November 2022. Excellent. I'm excited about the movie. But here is the issue that I have, and there's a lot of backlash about. I see the trailer. The trailer is beautiful. The backlash is that why did they kill off a black king off screen? Why was he killed off at all? They shouldn't be casting him. And this is one of the situations that I feel that Kevin Feige, at a tribute to Chadwick Boseman, did not want to be cast Black Panther. Black Panther movie is directed by a black person. If that director had an issue with that, he would have said something because he is a director of that series. Right.
Right.
He was on board. Between the two of you guys, why was there so much big of a backlash and attempted boycott of this movie? That's
Now we're dealing with we're dealing with politics versus timing. Do we say timing on the situation? Too soon? Too soon in the situation? Because I really don't see it. I believe if Chadwick Boseman was still alive and he couldn't do Black Panther for whatever reason, I feel like he would want the story to go on. Give a creative reason why I'm not present. Give a creative reason why. Maybe we could even go into the multiverse version where dealing with resurrecting a person had consequence. You could take him out of the equation without causing too much of a ruckus. They'll understand that. Give a narrative. Yes, things happen in real life, but creatively, we could come up with a solution that's appeasing to the story where we can actually replace him and nobody's going to catch feelings. Too bad. Because if we're using the multiverse angle, I feel would work in this situation where you had Doctor Strange inhabit a undead version of himself, and the spirits was like, "You can't do that," pretty much, and there was a consequence to that. Like Chikala, he was brought back. There should be a consequence for that. Yes, he accomplished what he wanted to accomplish for Wakanda, but there should be a consequence to that. Maybe his time was limited because of it. Then we can go into something else. But as it seems right now, they left the opening to bring back what's his name?
Tony Stark.
Creed.
Killmonger.
Killmonger. They have an opening to bring him back because all they have to do is get his body. He was buried at sea.
If he was buried at all.
His wishes was to be thrown at sea, to be buried at sea with his peoples.
Did he die?
Supposedly.
We see him kind of collapse, but we also saw Everett get shot in the neck. And one day later, he was like, "Wasn't I dead?" And they were like, "This is Wakanda, not in Wakanda. You're fine." So, right. Could he not be resurrected? With me, I understand both sides because
right.
And shout out to E-Man at E-Man's Movie Reviews, who started the recast T'Challa movement. And he has a lot of valid points, which are all valid because at the end of the day, his story was not finished.
Right.
Each character has an arc. And we just saw the beginning opening arc. Right. Also, just plain storytelling, this will be the third time that he's died. Because when Killmonger threw him off the damn building,
right,
he literally said the only thing that's keeping him alive is this ice. He's comatose. When they gave him the herb and he went back to the spirit world, his dad said, "Your time is over. Come home. You're done." All the ancestors was waiting. In all intents and purposes, he was not supposed to survive that.
Right.
And he said, "No, I got to go back. My work isn't done." And he chose to go back. He comes back and he's resurrected. Like you said, that could be a cost for that. Your time, you've already went over your time.
Right.
Also, in the comic book, Black Panther is known as the King of the Dead. They have the ability to take all the memories, powers, abilities of all of the Black Panthers before him. So creativity-wise, there's a million paths of a story why they could do it. They could even do it that this story happened during the blip where we had actually saw him get snapped. What happened during those 5 years? That's a simple and easy way to show a kingdom that has to go on. You wouldn't have been able to cast Shuri because she had also got snapped according to the thing, but cool, they were having problems with her not taking the vaccine anyway. So you do it with Angela Bassett as the lead,
Right.
and she's lost both her children, and now M'Baku has to come, and you can make this immediately. You find out that they didn't bury Killmonger. He had a little bit of life left. They treated him, and he's been rehabbing just like Bucky was doing
Bucky.
there, and learning the ways, and now he's redeeming himself. There's a million ways they could, because who was ruling Wakanda while he was snapped away for 5 years? A million ways. But I think at the end of the day, they asked Ryan Coogler, who Marvel has said, you're going to shepherd this area of the universe. And I think maybe he made that decision too quickly, but that was his brother. And he thought the best way to carry on was that. At the end of the day, though, with this multiverse saga, and they've announced all of Phase 5 and some crucial parts of Phase 6, I believe at the end of Secret War, we will get a soft reboot where they will have an opportunity through the multiverse to not only bring in a new T'Challa, but bring in a new Tony Stark, bring in a new Captain America, and keep the people that you want to keep, and kind of reshuffle the deck now with the X-Men included, now with the Fantastic Four including, and thematically, story-wise, it would give us technically 5 years since he had passed. We still kept Wakanda alive, and now we can have a brand new rebooted universe story-wise, and we've already introduced variants where they can look like each other or they can look completely different. The stage is set for us to bring it, but I don't think we're going to see another T'Challa story until Phase 6, where we end up getting or the end of Phase 6 after Secret War in 2025, where we'll get a rebooted Marvel universe that's starting over with whoever's going to be the new Tony Stark. We'll probably see Robert Downey Jr. pass the torch to this new Tony Stark in Secret War. So I'll probably bring back a variant, and the deck will be reshuffled. But after seeing that trailer, I have all faith in Ryan Coogler and that team over there. I think it's going to be heartbreaking. I don't think it's going to be the joyous feeling that we felt after Black Panther, where for probably a month I had an African accent after that. I don't know why. I just didn't want to be colonized anymore. I'm like, why do you talk to me, colonizer? They're like, Mars, I'm your boss. I'm like, colonizer, you shut your mouth. Just my children. Will not have it, no. But yeah, I think there's still opportunity, but this ultimately, after seeing the choice that they made, I believe is the right choice for the story, because we gotta destroy before we rebuild sometime. So we're gonna see the mighty country Wakanda. We're gonna see the repercussions of his decision to open it up, because from the plot summary that I read, the king is dead. We know the king is dead, and now the world is coming after their vibranium. The colonizers are coming. So, this is going to be, I think, thematically a good story to tell. And I think we will see T'Challa again in maybe another 5 years. But I think we're going to see him again recast after the multiverse saga and what happens to that.
Will we see Bucky come back to Wakanda?
Well, if you remember Captain America, she said, or not Captain America, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, she said, you probably need to stay out of Wakanda for a while, because he was harboring Baron Nemo, who killed T'Chaka. And they don't play about their kings in Wakanda. So I don't think we're going to see Bucky anytime. I wouldn't be surprised seeing Cap make a cameo, because they did build his suit and he didn't do anything shady. But I don't think we're going to see Bucky in Wakanda anytime soon.
Fair point.
Now, question for you guys: once I believe, in my humble opinion, from the beginning, I felt they should have recast Black Panther. I understand the work that Chadwick Boseman did, the great work he did as T'Challa for those two films, Civil War and Black Panther. I felt they should have recasted him after his death. Just keep that Black Panther T'Challa story going. Now, but my question to you is: once they do the Secret Wars, who, in your opinion, should be the recast T'Challa? I got two guys here. I got Childish Gambino, Donald Glover.
Okay.
He's already Prowler, though, in the Marvel Universe.
Oh,
Remember he was in Spider-Man?
Prowler, you said?
Yeah, the Miles Morales uncle.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's already him.
okay. How about that guy from Purge, the black dude from Purge? Um, with
Which
the heavy goatee, but he was like the gangster, but he was protecting the girl and stuff.
What else was he in?
I wish I knew. I wish I knew.
Hold on, let me get my phone. It's been like 60 purges, so I'm just gonna.
Yeah, I was like, which one?
It was the one. It was the one. Oh man, it was a purge. It was like the black folks were surviving the whole shit. Man. That's one. That's one. I forgot which one. I thought he would be great. You can't use Mahershala Ali because he's already going to be Blade. So
Which is going to be interesting.
I
and Marvel
typed
should.
in Black family from Purge, and I got Meet the Black. So obviously, my Google algorithms are off.
What's that guy's name? He was in Insecure with Issa Rae.
Jay.
He was
Jay.
the boyfriend.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. Jay. He was in Top Gun recently.
Yes.
Jay. I don't really necessarily want another American playing the Black Panther. I feel Marvel, one thing they're good with is their casting.
Mm-hmm.
And I would love to see them find an authentic African actor. An unknown, just to accomplish the role. But if I'm trying to sell tickets, because usually what Marvel do, like Chris Hemsworth, he was a nobody when they cast Thor. Chris Evans had dropped some flops. Robert Downey Jr. had just finished smoking crack. Like they picked up people who were, D-list and elevated them to who was Tom Holland before Spider-Man?
Right.
A nobody. So usually they cast the stars as the villains because the villains are going to die off. And so you get your big check and then we'll kill you after this movie and you get the, Christian Bale, for example, or, they're in there for one or two movies. But if I was casting a Black Panther and you got to think about they're going to need somebody that's going to be able to be around for 10, 15 years to grow into the role. Chadwick wouldn't have had many movies. I think even if he was healthy, I think he would have got through the trilogy and he would have been in the two upcoming Avengers movies and they would have passed the mantle to Shuri anyway, like they did in the comic book, because he was still in his mid 40s when he passed. By the time everything would have said and done, he would have been 50 years old. That would have been an old kitty walking around in that Black Panther suit, even though he didn't look it that way. And of course, you can put a stunt man. At the end of the day, I think as an artist, he would not have wanted to just be T'Challa, even though it was a very important role. Mm-hmm. So I think he would have wanted to pass it to Letitia Wright. But if I'm getting an actor, I think John David Washington, Vince son, would be a good. I've seen him do accents. He can do a believable South African dialect or African dialect. He's young enough where he's in his early 30s. He's still going to look the same at 45. You know what I mean? So he could do this. I would probably go John David Washington. And he's a star, but he's not a big enough star where you're just going to see him in that role.
If we're talking about an older T'Challa, I'm thinking, what is his name? Digimon Hansu?
Who played him in the animated version. I don't know if you know that was him on the BET Black Panther animated series. He voiced him.
So that would be a good segue. That would be.
He's also in the MCU already, though.
He's in the MCU. He's Guardians of the Galaxy. But that would be a good one to just as a filler for now to get those out of the way. just to get those out of the way, and you can pass it off to Siri, like you suggested, like a part of the regular storyline. At least we get a couple more movies out of it.
Another interesting aspect, we've introduced time travel. How
True.
about we get the guy who played young T'Chaka, who was the son of the guy? He's an actual actor. He in the first Black Panther. You could do some time weaving where T'Chaka comes back somehow. You know, you're introducing Kang, and you have T'Chaka coming back. Angela's like, "Damn, you young again, Bay. You know what's going on? What's up? You know, he could come back. You know, I tried to rescue my son. I knew what was gonna. You know, there's so many times. It's a comic book. Anything can possibly be done, and even with special effects, I also feel we're not. I don't know if you guys look at any of the Star Wars or Disney Plus.
Love it.
But they brought James Earl Jones back for Darth Vader.
Yes.
He never stepped on set. He
Yep.
never recorded a line of dialogue. Same thing with Luke Skywalker. They brought young Luke Skywalker back, and Mark Hamill was never on set.
Right.
With technology, I don't think it's disrespectful for them to. He only had like a $4 million net worth. Give that man's family $20 million a year, and sell us the likeness. You can digitally respeecher. He's in the suit 90% of the time.
Right.
We're not far off with the technology where we could bring. I think a lot of people say, "Oh no, it's disrespectful." No, what's disrespectful is not being able to feed your family. Compensate that man's family.
Right.
With the rights. And when we need him, he's a king. He don't have to be in every movie. He ain't getting off the throne too much. But when we need him, we can have a digital chat with Boseman. We're there now with the technology. I think people should open their mind. I think it's the best of both worlds. His family is compensated well. We get what we like, and you just have a great writer with the keyboard doing the digital in his voice. It can be done.
Right.
It really can be done if we are open-minded and stop just thinking that, oh, it's just a cash in. No, we get more Black Panther movies. What we get to hear the story that we want to see, and his family. I think that's what Chadwick would want. His family be taken care of, and us to get to see the role that he felt was so important. If they can do it now, if it's cheesy, no. But I know with the technology, it can be done. No problem.
Right. It's a good point. Good points, man.
And you can do that for all the legacy actors. Robert Downey Jr. We know you're getting a little long in the tooth. Sell us your rightness. $30 million a year. And we can use Iron Man in 3 projects a year. Same thing with Chris Evans. You don't want to do it? Cool. Sell us your likeness. The technology is there.
How do you think? How do you think? What do you think would be the difference if they didn't have Morton Downey Jr. and they did get Tom Cruise for that role as Iron Man?
It's hard to say because there's some roles like Batman that can be passed on.
Right.
You know your general rules of Batman. You talk like this. You wear
like scary, like we're doing scary movie rules.
Yeah, it's not a much. As long as you got a good chin and you're white, you can be Batman. Some roles are so linked with that person. Tom Cruise is phenomenal,
right?
But what he brought, what Robert Downey brought to it, would he even had that spirit to collaborate because he's Tom Cruise? Is he good? There's so many things. I would love to see what he would come back as a variant now, especially as like a superior Iron Man who's like slightly crazy. That gives me jump on the couch Tom Cruise vibe. I love that woman, Oprah. I'm like, right, you love women, right? But but yeah,
didn't John Travolta say the same thing?
Yeah, a couple of those Scientologists, I've heard some tales about what's going on there. I think Will Smith was related too,
Morgan Freeman.
I don't know. Morgan Freeman was in a 97 Nissan. That's why he got that dead hand, because he was with a side chick in the 97 Nissan. I was like, why is he in a 97 Nissan Maxima?
You know how we do.
Andy Dufresne.
But if that was the case with Tom Cruise, I believe he would be a darker Iron Man.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Darker. I think darker, definitely.
And I still think that's a possibility when I think Secret Wars is going to blow. I know the Hickman run well, and I think it's going to blow. We thought Endgame and Infinity Wars was something. If they do what I think they're going to do with Secret Wars, I think we're going to see Hugh Jackman back. We're going to see Nicolas Cage back as Daredevil. We might see Ben Affleck back as a variant. I think it's going to be a celebration of all things Marvel, because now it's all under one umbrella. So we imagine us seeing
Froggy Happy,
all three Hulk. You know what I mean? And you find out that Kang did something, and that's the reason why there's two different roadies. Terrence Howard come back like, I should be. You know, there's so many. You're like, oh shit, they did switch over movies. The reason was Kang saw something, snipped, inserted a variant. And we there's so many things that you could do. Bring back Edward Norton, like, oh yeah, you weren't the original Hulk, and you find out Kang did, like, you would have been too dangerous, so I inserted this one in here, all of my Grandmaster plan. There's so much even if you just see Terrence Howard for 3 seconds in the suit, and imagine you see that gray suit and the helmet lift up, and it's Terrence Howard, he just like, all right, Iron Man, and just fly off. You're not gonna buy that ticket. You're not gonna buy 2 of those tickets just so you can just one for your popcorn. There's so many, and Kevin Feige, if you steal this, you see it's on my man's show right now. Don't steal my idea without proper compensation. We'll see in 3 years.
Exactly.
But yeah, there's so many opportunities. Like I said, Edward Norton's Hulk meets Mark Ruffalo's Hulk. We saw it with Spider-Man. It worked.
Wow.
Oh, no, that Spider-Man, that movie, I kid you not. When I saw Andrew Garfield, it hit me. It's like, yo, shit, Andrew Garfield. When I saw Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, that shit hit me here.
Yeah.
Right. You brought it all the way back. You brought it all the way back.
All the way back. So you saw that feeling that you get, and you can do it in an organic way that makes sense. It's an opportunity for every plot hole. You can literally go back and fix every plot hole and retroactively make it appear like, Jesus Christ, these guys playing 20 years of perfection. It's such an opportunity with the multiverse.
You're gonna plug every hole, and then you have the opportunity to create a whole new storyline.
Right. And then organically start with new young actors, whoever you want. Okay, they had to sacrifice for this universe to live on. We had to, that's the whole point of the incursions. And then we have this new, really built version. Robert Downey Jr. says goodbye, and the kid that plays Eddie in Stranger Things, let me tell you, he's a perfect new Iron Man. Check it out, y'all. Check it out. But you'll have the ability to do that, and now you can set the next 20 years with your younger cast that have organically passed the torch from Chris Evans, because we haven't had the interactions that we want to see, because we haven't seen Iron Man interact really with T'Challa at all. That's a relationship that has to be shown. Mm-hmm. But that we've missed the opportunity due to timing. So I think at the end of Secret Wars, it's going to be an ability and an opportunity for them to give us everything we want without making what we saw the last 20 years seem like it doesn't matter. It's a great opportunity.
Whew. Like you put everything together so well that I was sitting there thinking about everything and just piecing it together as you were speaking. That seems like a very good possibility that it could go down like that. And I wouldn't be mad at any of it. I would actually sit through all of that. And yes, I would pay for it at the movie theaters, enjoying with my popcorn.
It's established canon that the multiverse exists. So everything we've ever seen, the Marvel cartoons, the Marvel movies, even the shitty ones like Elektra and Daredevil, they all could exist and have Lou Ferrigno. How funny would it be to see like on this universe, Lou Ferrigno Hulk shows up, and you're like, dude, you're just a dude in makeup. What
Right.
What,
he was actually in the first one.
He
was a security guard.
He was a security guard, absolutely. But there's so many opportunities.
I think they even have Bill Bixby in there.
Yeah, and on the screen, he was playing on the screen when,
right.
Yeah. So it's just a great opportunity to really canonize, be a love letter to. You've been sticking with Marvel for 25 years,
right?
30 years. Some of us. It's a great opportunity.
Now, and there's also a segue to bring Wesley Snipes back as Blade.
Both Blades,
right,
fighting together.
That would be crazy.
That would be crazy. You got to do it. Blade save Marvel.
Right.
Let's give that man his flowers. He saved Marvel because Marvel back then DC was making the movies. Batman's, the Superman.
Now it's the opposite.
Yeah.
Now it's the opposite.
I felt so bad for The Rock up there on that Black Adam presentation. I'm like, man, you picked the wrong team. You could have came over to this Marvel squad. Now
I don't know, but it seems like that movie's gonna be fire.
I love The Rock. Mm-hmm. There was a time in 1996 where I talked like The Rock. My girlfriend was about to kill me because I just talked like The Rock for a full year. I'm like, hey, hon, what do you want for dinner? It doesn't matter what you want for dinner. I couldn't help myself. But he's a terrible actor. He is an awful. The Rock plays The Rock in every single movie. If I see that tan shirt khaki combo in another movie, he's always in the jungle, always fighting a bear or something. I'm like, Jesus Christ.
Stupid monkey.
Right.
The Rundown.
Which, by the way, Rundown is a cult classic, man. Shut up.
Hilarious movie.
Little Oompa Loompa.
Right.
He got the moves.
I'll give you that. Don't make waves.
Oh man, fellas, this has been a great episode. I hate to put an end to it, but listen, we done develop a few more episodes that we got to do together, guys. So I want to talk about next episode, but no, the next episode will be the 4th anniversary, which will be this coming Monday. We're going to talk about entrepreneurship and branding. We're all podcast hosts in our own podcast. We want to talk about that more. I'm trying to reach out to Live Neutral. You know what I'm saying? Also, having on the podcast as well Monday. Hopefully, I get them on live. So about entrepreneurship and branding, how important it is to protect our branding as podcast hosts, and what made us podcasters. You know what I'm saying? Most importantly, I would love to talk about that with both you guys at Live Neutral, and hopefully I have my classmate Brian Bethio to join us on that too, and just to talk about that as well. And good things, but few episodes. We don't have Marz back here. The What If, the Game of Thrones. We're gonna do that right before the debut of House of Dragons. I want to have an episode. I want to talk about the Multiverse of Madness, Doctor Strange movie, and the Spider-Man No Way Home movie. Mm-hmm. So I felt those two movies, something was missed. A miss between both movies. It should have linked up to each other into the Doctor Strange movie.
Yeah, because they came out of order. Spider-Man was actually supposed to come after Doctor Strange. America Chavez was actually supposed to Spider-Man was supposed to come before. I'm saying it backwards. After, yeah. America Chavez was actually supposed to make her debut in Spider-Man. So they had to make a lot of changes. Also, they almost shot Doctor Strange entirely. Because you remember they changed the director. It was Scott Derrickson, and they changed it to my man Sam Raimi. So a lot of things with Phase 4, and I know a lot of people have been saying it doesn't hit the same. They're introducing and telling us the aftermath of 10 years of storytelling. Be patient. If you look at some of those Phase 1 movies, they do not hold up. I looked at their first Captain America the other day, and I was like, "Yo, this is cheesy.
Right.
This is straight cheesy." But by Winter Soldier, they had got the tone established. They're introducing a ton of characters to Disney Plus, and then they had a pandemic where we have no Marvel for a year, and the storylines had to be changed and shifted. We saw the death of Chadwick Boseman. They had a lot to do. Black Panther was supposed to come out so long ago, but everything had to be changed. But I think right now they're back on the production schedule. They got their footing in place. We've had some misses, but Marvel has the bad that they can take those risks. Their misses is everybody else's best dream. So
right. And they're bringing Daredevil back. 18 woo! 18.
That's like 3 WandaVisions.
Right. I'm looking forward to that because I never wanted them to end that series. It was just getting good.
Yeah.
Just getting good.
Well, Kingpin is my top 3 favorite villain in all of the MCU.
So far, the actor that plays Kingpin has been my favorite, next to Michael Clark Duncan. Because I like Michael Clark Duncan playing Kingpin in the Daredevil movie. Even though that movie wasn't great, I still liked him as that character.
He wasn't bad.
The strength, I felt his strength was on point. How he acted as far as just being the villain was cool. They didn't give him much to work with, and he still made it work.
Yeah, he wasn't bad.
It was bad at all, but I'm interested. You saw that Kingpin crossover into Hawkeye series and Daredevil series and Punisher series. He crossed over to all them shits.
Right.
I'm like, wow.
He's going to be an Echo. He was already in Spider-Man.
Right.
Now he's going to have his 8. By the time those 18 episodes, we're going to feel like he's been around. He'll probably end up, when you think about it, with more screen time than people that have been in the MCU for 10 years.
Right. Which they should lead into like a movie. If they're just going to finalize it, close it out with a big bang movie. If they're going to finalize the Daredevil season, which they should, but it's going to wind up him sharing a cell with Kingpin, pretty much.
I think we're going to see a lot of the Netflix characters also intertwine. And I think that's why they're going to have so many episodes. So you can have a 4-episode block with bringing John Barathol back as a Punisher. Right. A couple of episodes of bringing Luke Cage back to let you know, hey, they're here. They're still in this universe. They could get rid of Iron Fist, but everybody else I would like to see come back.
I would prefer Iron Fist over Jessica Jones. Not for nothing.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would trade. I would trade you.
Yeah.
And I would rather see Iron Fist and Shang-Chi.
Even though I still think of her as Loris Tyrell, but but
he went out with a bang on that show.
yeah. But even Iron Fist started to get good after the second season.
It was.
The fighting looked more realistic the second season. The first one, I was like, why are you getting hit? You with all the training that you have, you should not be getting dealt with like that. Yeah. Not at all.
Daredevil was blind. He fought way better than that. I seen a couple times on that. Well, they said, he didn't really want to train and do choreography. So he used a lot of jump cuts and dart, but he looked like he had never thrown a punch in the life. I think one time I saw him go like this. I was like, wait, Iron Fist, come on, man.
We need you to be a little bit more sharper.
Iron Fist, rubber band wrist.
This is your time, Danny Finn Jones, to eliminate the Laurel Tyrell version of your life.
Yes.
Danny Rand, the Iron Fist.
Let it go, man.
You walking around here like Steven Seagal running.
in the moo-moo, acting like he's still tough with all that Just for Men dripping down his face.
Wow.
Like, you 73 with a full head of black hair. Come on, man. Don't nobody believe you.
My man wearing a wig, man.
At this point, it don't matter.
No, it don't matter.
Yo, they made fun of him. I just seen a picture of him on South Park. That shit had me dying. I was like, yo, South Park goes in.
Oh man, on that note, fellas, we had to call it an episode. It was great having Marz on the podcast again. He'll be back this coming Monday with my brother JoeyG. Any final words? We can start with Marz right now.
Yes, man. Thank you guys for having me. It's always a pleasure. I love the TruPlayaz podcast. Y'all please like, comment, subscribe, follow them. And if you're interested in what little old Marz is doing, we have Down in the Den, new episodes every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Check out Marz Entertainment Presents The Den on YouTube, or you can check me out wherever you subscribe to your podcast, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, blah, blah, blah podcasts, all the damn podcasts. Listen, comment, subscribe, support my boys. Thanks.
All right. JoeyG.
Listen, you heard Marz. I don't got to say much after that. We're going to keep on doing this. We're going to keep bringing you content. Follow, like, subscribe. You know what it is. Big Dom, take it away.
Thank you, fellas. It's always blessed to have two of my favorite programs with me. Definitely. The TruPlayaz podcast is going on, we're 4 years old, June 27, 2018, when it started. We're going on 4 years, going on year 5. And, we're looking to still expand, still grow, and collaborate with more other podcasters on this podcast, as well as me joining them on their podcast. And I can't forget the one person who I can't find on Facebook anymore, which was Dillis of Victoria, who gave me the opportunity to, promote my podcast on her show. She invited me as a guest, and that's when I learned the value and gratitude of and being on other podcasters, and just it's always a friendly competition, but always definitely support and networking with the podcasters to grow and be a better podcaster, not just now, but in the future as well. And also I'm going to integrate more of my financial concepts into the podcast this season. So be wary of those episodes that's coming up real soon. All right. It's your man, Big Dom. I'm going to sign up this podcast. Remember, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Follow my Instagram page, Instagram.com, TruPlayaz Podcast. Follow and like my Facebook page, Facebook.com/TruPlayaz Dom. I'm signed off. Catch me on Anchor, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeart Radio, TuneIn Radio, JoeyG Radio, and did I mention SoundCloud? I did mention that, right? And many other platforms that you see on TruPlayaz Podcast. It's your man Big Dom signed off with my New York Mets hat as we beat the Yankees again today.
Listen.
Peace.
You see it, Yankee hat, right back there.
You rocking the Mets hat, my brother. But on that note, peace, everyone, and love.
For the podcast.
Things will get brighter. Then bring it down hard. Someday.
What are you doing?
Dance off, bro. Dance.